Hey, I'm Jason Wood, the VA Loan Guy and host of the Armed and Ready podcast. Please come and check out this exciting episode we have for you.
When I was in Iraq, I carried a lightsaber up in the turret with me. Just had it hanging up there, and that was like my personal dedication to or symbol of my dedication to being a light everywhere I go.
Well, that's cool.
So like for me, I wanted to serve our country in a way that aligned with like my values as well. So like my lightsaber, like I carry one everywhere I go. And that's like my constant reminder that I'm a warrior who brings light and life, not death and destruction.
That's really cool.
And after I got out, for me, it's like I had this really big feeling that like the only thing my hands were suited for was destruction. So learning how to build lightsabers gave me a skill and a craft where now I feel like I can create things, and I don't just feel like destroying is the only thing that I'm good at.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you actually build like movie quality like lightsabers now,
yes,
right?
Yes, yeah. So and not only movie quality, but I do competitive lightsaber dueling as well. So these are also martial arts training tools. The blades are made out of a thick polycarbonate, which is the same material that goes in the construction of bulletproof glass.
Okay.
So you can actually hit these together and they won't break.
Oh, they're strong then.
They are strong. So yeah, you can see it. And the hilts are ordinarily made out of aircraft aluminum.
Wow, that thing's solid.
It is, yeah. And there's a few different companies out there who make really quality sabers, and they have great electronics and stuff like that. And I've interacted with most of them, and I've broken most of them. Is the thing. So for me, after I got out, I was still playing with lightsabers and stuff like that, but I kept breaking them, and it was just too expensive to like have to keep having the company maintain them or buy a new one. Right. So I started learning how to make them. I started learning how to repair the ones that I had. And then from there, I ended up getting a job working at this company called Saberforge. And that was a crazy experience, because the owner was, basically working out of a garage whenever I started working with him up in the Bay Area.
Gotcha.
And then we moved up to Oregon, and I helped him take his company from 2 people in a garage to 6 shops in Oregon City with 70 plus employees. I was part of a Kickstarter campaign that gained over like $2.1 million.
Wow.
I was on the news up in Oregon like multiple times. Once we got the shops, I really started running his company because he stopped showing up.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. No, I would call him and be like, hey, there's this thing that I feel like, needs an owner's decision, and to be like, figure it the fuck out. So I would, and so I was running the machine shop. I'd be putting out fires in other departments all day. And still, had to maintain a daily quota of hilts, gotten out as well, the same as everybody else.
Oh, jeez.
So yeah,
a lot of responsibility.
It was a lot, dude. It was a lot, and over the time that I was there, things just kept getting kind of crazier and crazier. The guy's just kind of abusive, and not even kind of abusive. The guy's really abusive. So after I worked there for 4 years, and then and he fired me. I came back down to California to be with family, and now I'm just working on getting my own business started up.
That's cool. So, you were saying there's a competitive thing with the lightsaber stuff. So tell us what's that all about?
So, the organization that I deal with, primarily is called, TSL. It's the Saber Legion.
Okay.
And so, it is an international dueling organization. It's about 3,000 members strong. And yeah, we get together and we do full contact lightsaber dueling. We wear fencing helmets and gear. Most people theme their gear based off of some.
So it's like fencing in a way, right? Sword fighting, kind of.
I call lightsaber combat the mixed martial arts of sword fighting, because when you look at the blade, it's it's round, right? There's no cutting or blocking edge to a lightsaber. It's all a cutting or blocking edge. So what we call that is an omnidirectional blocking and striking surface. So what's cool about this is this works as an allegory for any sword combat you bring. So we get people from HEMA, we get people from fencing, we get people from Filipino martial arts, we get people that just come in off the street, watch 5 animes and want to come tangle.
Somewhere, yeah.
And it's really cool because it all translates. All the techniques translate into the lightsaber.
All right, and then you had like another story that you were going to share with us.
After we got back from Iraq, we held the Marine Corps Ball in Vegas.
Okay.
So we're all in Vegas. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing.
It's kind of a bad combo.
It's
right
kind of
there.
a bad
Marines
combo. Marines
in
in Vegas
yeah.
is a terrible combo. So one of my buddies is sitting at a bar and he's just drinking. He's trashed. And this guy next to him like spills a drink on him and is just rude about it. So my buddy's steaming and he's just about to go like start a fight with this guy. And then as he's about to get up to go start a fight with this guy, he feels a hand on his shoulder and this really familiar sounding voice going, "Hey, it's not worth it." My buddy turns and sees none other than Dan fucking Aykroyd sitting next to him. Yeah, Dan Aykroyd sitting next to him. And so Dan Aykroyd is just like, yeah, you know, you don't want to go start a fight with this guy. Come on, let me buy you a drink. Buys my buddy a drink, sits there, chills with him for a while, and then they just part their separate ways. And he kept my
totally defused the situation.
Yeah, totally defused the situation.
Good for him. That's cool.
Dan Aykroyd stopped a fight from going down between one of my Marine buddies and some random dude.
Right on.
He didn't stop my buddy K-Bar from getting kicked out of the Bellagio for getting in a fight, though.
I love that because, you know, as we watch the mainstream media, it's become so much of like a show. You know, it's almost, it's less about like the journalism and the reporting of what is actually happening. And it's like, hey, how can we manipulate story A to get us ratings, right? And so I love that you guys are doing that because there's a lot of truth out there that isn't being shared.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's too many eyes on that. But, you know, hopefully we can get, you know, some additional eyes on what you guys are doing because I think it's really cool.
Kind of the advice I give people is you watch entertainment and you read the news. And that's really like, yes, you know, there's actual news that comes across your TV station, but for the most part, they are engineering what they show and what they're covering and the type of hosts that they have on there around an entertainment objective, right?
Yeah.
Whereas people that are writing the news tend to be a lot more fact-based. And for a lot of news publications, ours included, it's going through layers of copy editing and fact-checking stuff. It's not just what one individual spouts off on while they're on live TV at any given moment, right? So there's a lot of different layers of filters that goes through. And not that print journalists don't ever get stuff wrong. Of course they do. But I recommend people, like, if you really want to get news and to be informed and to know what's going on in the world, behoove you, read from a couple of different outlets, compare and contrast the coverage. You're going to be much more well informed than if you're just watching one of the cable news outlets. You may be entertained with them, but that's, it depends what your goals are.
Right. Yeah. It depends on your goals. And I notice even like sometimes the local news, a lot of it is very opinion leveraged, right? It's someone's opinion of whatever's going on, but it's rarely like, hey, here's what's actually happening in, Afghanistan today or wherever around the world, right? It's just like, hey, what can we manipulate and just have an opinion on and just stir up a bunch of emotion?
Pretty well known at this point that if you say something controversial or pander to one, point of view or another, that your viewership will go up. And all of the, from local news channels all the way up to the big, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, et cetera, they all kind of know, hey, if we are controversial or pander to one side or the other, that, our ratings will stay up. And, it's true.
Totally.
It works. It's a proven formula.
Yeah.
No, not great for society, though, in my opinion.
I agree completely. Yeah. I mean, they've proven it works, but yeah, it's not good for all of us. So tell me a little bit about coffee and what's happening. Is the coffee industry growing? Is it shrinking? Where's that whole thing headed? I mean, I know, like, if you look back, when Starbucks really like got big and like there was just this craze for coffee, right? And I think it's been pretty well sustained. Like, I think coffee is like a pretty big, like, mainstream thing nowadays. So are you guys seeing any trends as far as like the business is concerned? Is it getting more competitive? Are there less people trying to jump into it? Because I remember at one point in time when Starbucks was hitting it big, everyone was trying to open up their own little coffee stand and stuff like that, right? Because they saw this excitement around it. What are you guys seeing right now in that industry?
There's more people drinking coffee and more people are drinking more coffee than they did before. It's whereas a lot of people would have that cup in the morning and go on their day. There's a lot of people are drinking 2, 3, 4, 5 cups of coffee a day at this point. And it's becoming, there's a lot of parts of the world that were traditionally like tea drinking companies that are now starting to drink coffee. They're leaving tea behind and drinking more coffee. So
Mm.
it is absolutely an expanding market for coffee. It's an expanding industry. There's always competition. One of the big things that's impacting the coffee industry right now is the ability to move product as well as the price. Like commodity coffee beans, the prices aren't sustainable for a lot of farmers. So you got a lot of farmers in coffee producing countries that are saying, "Screw this! I'm going to go grow pecans or avocados or some sort of other cash crop, right?" Because of the way the price has been driven down on coffee beans. But there's a lot of reporting out there right now that because of some of the issues around farmers leaving the coffee industry, that's going to result in the prices going back up, and everybody's going to be paying more for a cup of coffee. So in some cases, probably dramatically more, because it's just simple supply and demand, right? Like if
Yeah.
the supply drops off and the demand is continuing to grow, like that price is going to go up. So what you're paying for coffee today may be much different than what you'll pay 2 years from now, just depending on how this all goes.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the perfect segue into talking supply and demand into my industry, which is real estate. So I think we're seeing that on a pretty extreme side right now, in alluding to what is coming through your guys' industry too. But we're seeing, and it's nationwide. I mean, I lend in 20 states, primarily all with military and veterans and stuff. As people are PCSing and things. But we're seeing in every market this crazy amount of demand and very low supply.
I've got one friend who is looking for a house right now, and his real estate agent told him, like, look, he's got, he's going to use a VA loan. They're like, look, you're not going to have much luck with a VA loan right now, because of the fact that to be competitive in the market in this particular area that he's moving to, it's all cash offers, no contingencies.
Yeah.
And like not even waiting for the basic home inspection that a VA loan requires. I mean, that's how competitive it is right now. And on top of that, people are coming in 50, 60, $70,000 over asking.
Yeah.
And it's just it's crazy, and you don't even have that many houses to choose from, because you said the supply is just, it kind of seems like everybody that has thought about selling in the past year has already put it out on the market, made their money, and everybody else that's got a house is kind of happy where they're at. I don't know. What are you seeing?
I've been fortunate with a lot of our VA loan clients that I get together with their agent and go through a pretty good strategy session. So yeah, we're not winning on the first at bat necessarily, but we're having a pretty high success rate because we come in with an actual strategy to get that home and that offer
Mhm.
accepted. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of markets out there where the VA loan is not looked at as highly. And that's really where, the advantage comes into like who your team is, right? And really trying to get
Yeah.
that over the finish line, at least get it accepted. And there's a lot of different strategies depending on the market and the people involved and the client's, stomach for it as well on what we can do. But we're seeing a lot of offers go above the list price. But I'll be honest, depending on how much over they're going, I'm not seeing appraisals being too much of an issue. And I think, when this craze initially started, we were seeing a lot of appraisal problems, right? Because the appraisers are coming in going,
Mhm.
hey, there's no comps to support you paying 50 grand over the asking price. So sorry, the appraisal's coming in 50 grand short. And in those scenarios, now the buyers and the seller got to figure out a way to make this work. And
Yeah.
oftentimes it's the buyer just forking out an extra 50 grand. Sometimes they meet in the middle. And I've seen different things happen. But now that we've been having this situation for some time now, I mean, it's been about a
Yeah.
year. Now
Yeah.
we're seeing sales that are supporting X percent over the asking price in a
Yeah.
given neighborhood or something. So
The market has gone up. Like it's not like somebody is overpaying for a house. That's just how much that house is worth now with the current supply.
yeah,
Like the market has adjusted.
totally.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like Austin, Texas is probably one of the most wild markets right now. A lot of that because you have, the California Bay Area, like the tech companies are moving there. And,
Mhm.
home price comparisons, in the Bay Area, I mean, you can get a postage stamp of a studio for under $1 million, right? So if you had a home with any space at all, you're well into the millions for what that house cost. And if you have been living there a few years with this whole supply and demand thing, you got a bunch of equity. So these guys are are all relocating to the Austin area, where comparatively homes are cheap compared to what you would, buy in the San Francisco Bay Area. And they're going in there and they're just throwing down big bucks. Like, yeah, we'll give you
Yeah.
150,000 over asking price. And what seller is going to say no to that? An
Yep.
extra 6 figures? Okay. And it's made
Yep.
that market just go hog wild. It's incredible. And I'd say it's probably one of the most crazy markets out there right now. But all of them are super competitive. I mean, I have some clients where it's like, offer 14 is the one that finally gets accepted. So tell me a little bit about being a drill instructor. I mean, obviously in movies and stuff, it's pretty glorified. But I don't know. I mean, the level of yelling is pretty spot on. If I can recall. But tell us about. I mean, I have a couple friends who actually went through drill instructor school and were instructors as well too. And it actually, I mean, as much as we kind of make light of it, it's a critical role in the military, right? I mean, you're shaping the entire military in this 8-week period.
So that's a great question. And I could tell you that's one of the highlights of my career. So I got selected to go to DI school, and I went to DI school in MCRD San Diego back in the 80s. I can remember it was class 5-83. So prior to that, there was like 5 of us that got there like 30 days earlier. We were enjoying California and everything, but we were watching how the instructors were just handling the students. And pretty much you could say it was the Marine Corps version of Bud School, right? Bud's over there in Coronado.
Yeah.
So I can unpack this as you go to DI school, you go through orientation, they introduce you to the OIC, the officer in charge, the staff NCOIC, then your instructors. So there's a curriculum. There's pretty much, hey, we got the first phase, second phase, third phase, whatever we got, just like boot camp. And there's curriculums, and there's certain things you have to be able to maintain a score to able to graduate from DI school. So therefore, you have to pass a PFT. You have to have, back then it was, you had to have a first class PFT. If you didn't have a first class PFT, you were just filtered out. Academics was another thing, knowing the academics of how we teach recruits. So if you notice in the movies or in the documentaries, drill instructors are teaching the recruits, and this is what we have to do it off the bat, verbatim.
Yep.
From that point on, it also is knowing how to administer first aid, and when we're taking them on a run, we can't show, back when I came in, that you're tired, you're exhausted. You got to be able to show that, hey, these recruits are constantly looking at you. They're sizing you up, and they're going to duplicate themselves based on your presence. So you have to be on point 24/7.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that I can honestly tell you that it came close to twice. I think 3 times I didn't make it to DI school, graduate from DI school. Seriously.
Wow.
And it was because the academic standpoint, right? Because you had to know how to march a platoon, call the platoon, and know the academics and everything else. So you're graded on that. So I failed it like twice. And the third time, if I didn't pass it, I was done.
Ooh.
So it was like, you're talking about the 3-strike effect. You're talking about stressing out.
Pressure's on, right?
The pressure's on. And I left. My wife was in Quantico, Virginia, and I wasn't going to go back to my unit not passing DI school. I can honestly tell you, the stressful situation was like on there. My chief instructor, he would tell me, hey, you're on the bubble. You're about to pop here pretty soon if you don't pass. So I had to like get on it, be on there, learn, losing my voice to be able to march a platoon. So the following day, I was like sucking honey and lemon to take my squad and do all the drills that a drill instructor would do and pass that. And at the same time, we've gone on pretty much conditioning hikes with humps and more or less.
Yep.
I mean, it goes back to what we're talking about. I'm an admin guy. What the chief instructor does, you're the admin guy, right? Yes. Take this radio and you're going to be the front of the line. So I got to be up there with the lead instructor.
Yeah.
And I can't fall back. I've never done a hump in what we're talking about in Camp Pendleton, Mount Mothers. The elevation is high, it's steep. It's about 10 degrees up. So think about that. You're a admin guy, a clerical guy, and you're carrying an Alice pack, which is 60 pounds, and then add on to a radio, which is an old radio, that's another 45 pounds. That's not including your helmet and your gear, and you're going up a grade, you're facing your face, you're looking at it, and you're billy goating up the hill. And they're waiting for you to quit.
Yeah.
They're waiting for you to quit. So there was a lot of tears during that time. But I can honestly tell you at the end when we graduated, we started with 85 and there was 24 of us that graduated.
So what was it like? You got to protect the president a little bit. Tell us about that experience. Did you get to meet him and spend some time with him?
Well, no, it was very short visit. It was a proud moment in my life that to be able to protect the president, to be asked by the Secret Service, because Donald Trump, he's the guy that, hey, I want to do this, and there's nobody stopping him. So at the time, the area was not secure, and the Secret Service had to show up first and make sure it was secure, and they didn't have the manpower to keep him there, protected. So they hire us, our team, and because of our background, and put us to work. So yeah, it was always going to be a proud moment. I'm always going to be very proud of sharing that experience. Met the First Lady, met Mike Pence. I did not have a lot of time spending with them. They came in, they show up, and they left. Gotcha. But during that period of time was very memorable. Yeah,
no, it's a big deal. I got to work on a presidential campaign years ago, and the president came to speak. It was President Bush. He was running for re-election, and he came to speak. So, of course, Secret Service was there and everything, the day before, setting stuff up. And it was cool. It was a big deal to be able to work in that presence and, you're feet away from the president and, of course, Secret Service everywhere and stuff. It's quite an operation. It's pretty neat. Those Secret Service guys are dialed. They're really dialed.
Yep. Especially, at the time, man, I was so tired, man. I was driving from Sarasota to Naples, broken down truck, man, bringing down ice. To the police department, the National Guard, every day, 3 times a day, man. I was driving 2.5 hours back and forth.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of like the sort of like the tap on the back. Hey, man, this was all worth it. You know what I mean? When you finally got to, do something right and be in the right place at the right time and meet something that someone that you care about.
Yeah. What are some of your goals, with your business, and what's kind of the direction you guys are aiming to head towards?
My goal right now is to sell as many pew sticks and rifles, AR-15s as I can to everybody, put every American AR-15 platform in their hands. I heard California, 4th of July, man, you're going to get your, you're going to get your assault rifles back or whatever they want to call them.
Nice.
But I'm looking forward to that, man. I got a lot of people out there that want our rifles.
Can we pre-order with you for all us California guys?
Yeah, I would love to, man. Let me show you case right here, man. I got a if you guys time, but
yeah, let's check it out.
Yeah, so this is one of our series, which is the patent series rifle. It basically is the custom AR-15 platforms. Got it to shoot. Here's one of the coolest things has happened 2 weeks ago. I was in Vegas and got to meet Randy Couture. We were filming the TV show called Surviving Man. Going to showcase in July on the Discovery Channel, over 100 million people. But our platform had to go to some testing while we were there. So this AR-15 platform's got a match grade stainless steel barrel that shoots Wild 223, that shoots both 5.56 and 2.3 accurately. Got an adjustable drop-in 3 6-pound pressure trigger, flat trigger, nickel-bone BCG, NB 45-degree angle safety, custom grip. You got a low-key stock, and you got a silent capture system. A lot of people don't know about the silent capture system. I do have it here, but I'll have to drop the rifle to show you. But it's very different than the Vietnam era typical buffer and spring system.
Okay.
In the back. So you also got adjustable gas block and a Kong brake. So great system, very low recoil, which makes it very accurate platform. We were able to shoot at 800 yards in the middle of the desert with a 5.56 55 grain regular ammo. We'll shoot at 100 yards on target every single time. Winds coming from, I was in a very unstable position, and it was just really, it was exciting to see that happening. So it's a very good system, and it's at a good price, a really good price. Most of these systems go for 3,000, 2,500, something like that. Not even close. It's literally half of that. So yeah, I'm really excited, man. We're working on a bundle package for the tactical games. I don't know if you heard of them.
No.
But the tactical games, you never heard of the tactical games?
I haven't.
Okay. So the tactical games is like CrossFit meets tactical.
Okay.
Super badass, man. So if you ever get a chance to get involved in it, or even try it out, even compete in it, I mean, you got all kinds of yahoos that get involved in it. I got a buddy of mine, got him involved. He's a full cage guy, and he's becoming really good at it, to say the least. And they're competing against guys who were Navy SEALs, guys who were recon. So you got civilians, you got military police, you got all kinds of guys. But anyways, CrossFit meets the tactical work. So you going up a rope with a rig, you going up a wall, and then you have to shoot. You got to pick up sandbags. You got to run 3 miles with a ruck in the back. It's pretty hardcore, man. So we're building a signature bundle that's going to be an AR pistol with a with actual upper. So I'm really excited what we're doing right now. We're going to bring back the apparel business. When we were shut down, we had over $2,500 products. A lot of people are asking me back for our designs. They want to support it back. But they can't, when they want to censor you, they take down your PayPal account, they take down your bank account, they take down your store, they take down everything from you. You got to start all over from again. So, one of the advice I could tell you, man, I'm sure you get a lot of people in here that tell you how successful they are. The thing that makes me successful, bro, is I don't quit. Is they take things from me that I have worked really hard for, and I have completely got up, dust off, and started all over again. You know what I'm saying? The great thing about Uncle Sammy's Schedule, the brand that I make, is we're everywhere. We're loyal. We're millions of followers, nationwide and worldwide. So we're not going anywhere. So this is the idea right now with the new venture, which is under Uncle Sammy's Got It Children, is the new AR-15 platforms and any other types of rifles that we're going to be promoting.
That's awesome.
There's a great quote from, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but from Warren Buffett, where he says, the most important thing for him wasn't the money that he made. It was every dollar that he saved. It was actually the money that he didn't spend. And this is a guy who's made more money than anybody else, I think, except for now, save maybe 1 or 2 people in the history of the United States, in history of the world. One of the wealthiest men on the planet. And for him, it was about, hey, making that tough decision to actually not spend money was more often than not what led him and propelled him into the success that he's been able to have in his career.
Yeah. So my coach gave me some sage advice. I got to spend some time with him a couple weeks ago, and we're at his house, and he's worth a ton of money, and he's got cool cars and an awesome house on the lake. Like, he's got all the stuff, right? But he's in his 60s, and so we started talking about that, and he goes, Jason, let me tell you something. He's like, what you need to do to have all these toys is save 20% of your paycheck, every single paycheck, for your entire life. And he's all, at some point in your life, the interest from your investments will buy you every toy you've ever imagined. And then some. And he's like, I don't pay cash for anything I have. It's all interest from my investments. He's like, because I was just super disciplined at a young age, 20% every paycheck, and put it away. And he's like, I didn't go without stuff. He's like, but I didn't go for the things that I knew were out of reach. Like, I didn't go into big debt to get like the fancy car or slap the TV on a credit card. If I really wanted it, then I just plugged some extra money away to save towards it until I was able to get there. And boom, but I still kept plugging that 20%, investing it. He's like, now I got it all. I can do whatever I want.
I think one of the key things that makes that strategy work, which is the absolute best strategy you can have, is finding contentment where you are. Right where you are today, wherever you are. And I mean, if you're listening to this and you're literally living in like a shanty under an overpass, find contentment there. Like, find that is actually a place where if you had to, you could stay there the rest of your life. And then that next piece of increase that comes over that, then you can take that and start banking it. And that's true for everybody. The shanty is a pretty extreme example of that. But let's say you live in a 2-bed, 1-bath, and you wish you had a bigger place. You have a $5,000 car and you're lusting after that $40,000 car. All of these different things that largely are driven by comparison, which is the greatest thief of joy. You're looking at what other people have and you're like, man, I want that. As soon as you let your heart start lusting after those things, you think it's going to bring you happiness. but really all it's doing is stealing that contentment. Because happiness, if you were to put it on a timeline, let's say I went from unhappy and then I reached contentment. When I get to contentment, the fallacy is that if I get this next thing, then that's going to move me past contentment and closer to happiness. So you're constantly pursuing that next thing, thinking it'll get you to happiness. What almost always happens to anyone you talk about that quote unquote makes it is they've come to the realization that as they were pursuing that next thing that seemed like happiness, they were actually sending themselves back towards unhappiness, when really if they just lock themselves in as content right there where they are, it opens up a world of opportunity, a world of financial gain, investments where one day you wake up and you go, wow, like I'll never want for anything. And this can be true for anyone. Anyone on the planet can get to that place. I truly believe that. They just have to be able to say, at this point right now, I'm going to lock in my expenses. I'm going to find all the joy that I have right now and continue to allow myself to have the joy in these things. It's not about robbing yourself of joy. Be happy in that contentment.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, 30 years, 10 years, 20 years do go by. And all of a sudden, you've got all those things that were out there in that happiness world, but you didn't have to ever pay for them because you were able to save enough while you were in that content zone for that period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's funny. My wife and I were having a very similar conversation yesterday on my drive home from work, and we're talking about this stuff. And she had heard some quote from Jay-Z, right? And then there's a quote from Biggie, and there's a couple of cliche quotes out there that are themed around this. But like the whole money doesn't buy happiness thing.
Yeah.
And the one quote that comes to my mind, even though it's not an idol of mine, but is Biggie from some of his songs that said more money, more problems, right? And that's true.
I've got that and the Thug Life tattoo. Actually, you just can't see it right now.
Yeah, same here. But there's a lot of truth in that,
Absolutely.
right? So it's not that lust after more money does bring on different problems, right? And there's a myriad of what they can be. And my wife was saying she had just heard this quote, which was the first time for me hearing it, but something that Jay-Z had said, and again, I don't idolize either of these people, but both of them made lots of money, and Jay-Z is a tremendous businessman,
Business
right?
person, absolutely.
And he said, if you can't afford to buy it twice, don't buy it.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty profound.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Right. I mean, that makes you think.
Yeah.
About like if you're gonna go buy some cool thing, if you can't afford to buy it 2 times right now out of your account, you shouldn't buy it.
So I love that as a personal, practical application.
Yeah.
I've always had a rule of thumb. Me, Jason, I love cars. Like I don't spend money on a lot. I'm in that content zone where I'm like, hey man, I can live my life and be happy for the rest of my life here. So why spend more than that? So what that gives me the opportunity to do is invest and be generous. Like we give away a ton because it's like we don't need it. There certainly are people who do need it. So that's been what the opportunity has been for us. But we take on that same approach of, ultimately you can either own your things or your things can own you. So the more things that you own, oftentimes it ends up being the latter. And it's frustrating to have the clutter. It's frustrating to have the financial commitments and the payments that come along with those things. I love that idea of being able to buy it twice. For us, like it was cars. Like I love cars. Jason, like I know you love cars too.
Yeah.
My rule of thumb with cars has been never buy a car I can't buy cash. And there's a lot of people who would tell me that is ass backwards thinking. They would say, what are you talking about? Like buy an investment with the cash, let the investment pay for the payment on the car that you want to buy. That's a common theory and a common philosophy. And I actually don't poo-poo that philosophy. That's great for many people. For me, I'm like, I won't buy the car that I would otherwise buy because I'm like, if I have to pay it cash, there's a sting that comes along with that.
Right.
A monthly payment I can maybe cover, but if I got to spend a bunch of money on that car, it's going to prevent me from going, overboard. But you got me thinking, Jason, I think there's actually an application of that in business as well, that don't buy it unless you can buy it twice. There's a lot of talk, about how to be a successful startup, how to be a successful entrepreneur. Been blessed to have had a couple of go-rounds at this whole entrepreneurship thing. And one of the things that a lot of wise mentors and sage advisors have said, and are now even continuing to say more and more, is contrary to what you may think, one of the worst things that can happen to your business is having too much money. Stick with me. One of the worst things that can happen to your business is having too much money, because you lose the hustle, you lose the grind, and more importantly, you lose the creativity. So the things that you're normally like stretching and reaching for, you're not going to reach for as much anymore. Same thing happens when you rely too heavily on paid advertising. It's the same conundrum. Like you're relying too heavy on paid advertising, your product will never mature, or your service will never mature to the level it needs to, because you're getting all this positive feedback. You're getting clients from all these places. So that just tells you, oh, I must be doing a good job at this. when really, if you're not relying on paid advertising and you're instead relying on organic growth and natural growth and content and the like, that's going to mean that you've actually created an audience. You've created people that really value what it is you're doing. And then at some point, you'll get to the point where you've seen the trajectory of growth that you really need paid advertising to supplement. So many people get just right on the paid teat right away. And ultimately, they get to a place where it's not sustainable because just recently, Facebook or iPhone with their iPhone 14.0 or whatever we are, I think it's 14.0. Now the new Facebook algorithm, because of the way that the level 14.0 allows you to actually do your privacy settings, ads on Facebook have gone up by 25% in the last couple of months. So all these businesses that are relying on Facebook as a key driver of their business for paid acquisition, their cost just went up by 25%, which for many of those companies could be enough to put them out. 25% margin hit, they could disappear because of that, because they haven't built an audience, they haven't built something endemic. So
well, it makes you complacent too.
Absolutely.
Like what you're saying, having too much money, right? Because like you said, the drive diminishes, the hustle diminishes, because it's like, oh well, I don't really need to work that hard today. I don't really need to make that many phone calls.
Right.
I don't really need to stay at the office till 5 today. I'll leave it. Like all that stuff starts to set in that complacency. And I see it in our industry a lot with the paid advertising, right? Like both on the mortgage side and the real estate side, there's a lot of people out there who survive off paid leads.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, it's kind of like that, like the happy drug, right? It's like,
yeah.
oh, well, I didn't close this one. That's okay. 3 more came in today. You know, eventually I'll get one, right?
Yeah.
And it just keeps coming. But the sacrifice that ends up happening is they're not building a sustainable, repeatable model that has any systems or anything to it, right?
And then they don't ask the critical question that every business person should be asking themselves. Why did I lose that one? Because you got those next 3 that are coming in, so there's never an after action report. Right. You get so just grooving in business going that you're not having after action. You're not actually pausing and reflecting. I named my daughter Selah. Selah is from the Old Testament, and it means pause and reflect. And I think it's a key word like to constantly remember in our lives is just take time to pause and reflect. And when you have too much money, they say that you just use that money to put a Band-Aid on it because you can just spend more and create more leads. You don't actually get the customer satisfaction, understanding, and ultimately people are the ones that suffer. Whether it's people in the organization that culturally you lose that drive, you lose that hustle, and you grow at a fraction of what you could have, or worse than that, even in many circumstances, it's the client that didn't get the service that they could have had otherwise. The customer that bought your product, that the product could have been better, but it was just what it was because that's what you made, because that's what you guys were driven to ultimately do, when just a little more time and attention from your team could have made the experience that much better for the person that you're serving. Yeah, no, you're totally right. Like realtors who do lots of business and they spend a fortune on Zillow leads, right? Yeah.
And I mean, I can only imagine their expenses on Zillow's got to be, 5 figures at least on a monthly basis.
Absolutely.
And they do a monster amount of business. But what I hear in the industry is exactly what you're saying, right? Is like the service, the customers aren't really that pleased, but they kind of got hooked into their process and are like, I'm in it. I got a guy that's fine, right? But they come out of it and there's no like, yes, that person was amazing. I had the best there's none of that.
Yeah.
So they're not gaining the referral business.
Exactly.
They're just sucking on that lead teat.
And unfortunately, then big changes come, even with a model like Zillow, where Zillow years ago was all based on paid advertising, which in itself wouldn't be great based on what we're talking about right now. But now Zillow has actually transferred a significant, if not a majority portion of their business to be through a network called a Flex network, where it's actually agent direct referrals with a referral fee. So now if you as an agent are actually paying for Zillow, what leads are left for you to be given by Zillow when they actually have a relationship and a referral partnership with many of these agents who have been forever those top producers that they're sending the cream of the crop to, and then you're getting the leads that you're netting after that. So there's a shift that can always take place when you're in the paid space that can in a single moment just completely change the business dynamic. We participated in a partnership in a program with Google in early days of this particular program, and it was a wellspring of business. I mean, you had more business than you knew what to do with coming from this particular real estate lead source. And ultimately, as the model proved itself to be successful through the few of us that were actually selected to do it originally, they ended up rolling it out to pretty much any agent that wants to sign up for it. And all of a sudden, what was this immense amount of business disappeared. And now maybe instead of having 20, 30 transactions from it, you may get 1, maybe 2 transactions from it.
Yeah.
Which for us, because ultimately we are not a business that's driven by paid lead acquisition, that was our icing on the cake.
Yeah.
That was the bonus. We had the growth trajectory and we threw that on top because that was more that we could do, like we had done with 5-figure spends on Zillow and all these others. But that was the top. You cut that off the top and it wasn't cutting off the head. It was giving us a haircut instead of lopping off our head altogether, which many businesses aren't fortunate enough to have that.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you so much for checking out today's episode. If you have any questions about the guests on the show, please reach out to me at valoanguy.us.